Hello, my name is Layla, and I'm here today with Lubos. Lubos is the founder and owner of Blue Warden Consulting, which is a consulting agency that specializes in helping small and medium-sized business owners with their cybersecurity issues. So we've got lots of exciting stuff to dive into today. Thank you so much for being here, and I'm really excited to do the interview with you today, Lubos.
Hello, Layla. Thank you very much for sitting down with me.
Can you tell me a little bit about what your background is and how you really became passionate about cybersecurity and particularly about helping small and medium-sized businesses?
I have always been passionate about technology. I have worked with electronics since I was very young. That includes working with computers and doing things like programming. And then over the last several years, I have been teaching at a local post-secondary institute here. Those two passions, education and technology, is something that I packaged into the company Blue Warden Consulting. And I'm really trying to bridge that human side with the technological side for small and medium businesses.
So today we're here to talk about cybersecurity. And in our previous conversations, you really touched on the human element of cybersecurity. And I know you mentioned that on your website as well. I think that'd be a great place to start. Can you explain what you mean about the human element of cybersecurity?
Yes, of course. So there's lots of companies that focus on the technological solutions for small and medium businesses. And many times the human element or the human side is sort of put aside. I believe that education is a big part of that human element, and I would like to focus on improving the awareness and education within small and medium.
Excellent. I definitely agree. There's a lot of human element that goes into cybersecurity. Now, we talked about small, medium-sized businesses in particular. Why did you decide now is the time that small and medium-sized businesses should really focus on cybersecurity?
So, by and large, small businesses are much more vulnerable to cyber attacks simply because they may not have the same resources as large enterprises. So when you look at companies that are 200, 300, 400 employees, they may already have an IT team or oftentimes even cybersecurity team. So small businesses and medium-sized businesses are at disadvantage here. So starting off with my company, I would like to help these small businesses to improve their cybersecurity protection and sort of prepare them for the future.
So you have mentioned that you work specifically with small and medium-sized businesses. What motivated you to want to work with this type of business?
Yes, so consultancy is typically associated with very large projects, oftentimes multi-million-dollar projects and multi-million-dollar companies. I would like to bring the idea of consultants to small and medium businesses because, as I mentioned, they are at disadvantage. And I would like to create that bridge between education and technology that is oftentimes missing within that space.
Oh, I love that. I do think a lot of small and medium-sized businesses need help with tech. And, we're seeing a lot of big businesses come in. Businesses like Shopify and Square have really helped bring easy access tech to small businesses. In your time working with small businesses, have you ever seen any small businesses or medium-sized businesses that really have faced issues from a cybersecurity attack? I know that when we were briefly talking, you were saying there's a crazy statistic about how many small businesses actually do have a cybersecurity attack in a given year.
Yes, so this statistics is maybe a little older from, if I remember, about 2021, but they were saying that more than 60% of small and medium-sized businesses experience cyber attack within any given year. So when you think about it, that's a really major number. So these businesses all need help. Every business, whether that's small or large, works with people. And people are often the most vulnerable part of any business. So those are the persons that are working inside, working with some of the processes. And so small businesses are not immune to that. So these small businesses, medium-sized businesses, 150 people, all the way down to just solopreneurs, everybody needs help with at least some part of cybersecurity protection.
Wow. That is just an incredible statistic. I know as a small business owner myself, and I'm sure a lot of other small business owners, they have the misconception that because we're small, we're not going to get attacked. There's no value in attacking us. But clearly that statistic proves that mindset is wrong, that even as a small business, we really need to consider the implications of our cybersecurity risks.
Exactly. And the risk is not only in the fact that you can or most likely really will be attacked, but when you look at some of the repercussions of some of these attacks, when the attack happens, oftentimes people are only thinking about the cost of the ransomware itself, for example, if it is ransomware. But the cost goes way beyond that. You have to take into considerations of how long your business will be shut down, for example. Sometimes it can be days or even weeks. You also have to consider perhaps paying somebody to restore your systems, if it is even possible, because if you didn't have backups, it may not be possible to restore all your data. Another consideration is the fact that you may damage your reputation. Many of the small businesses rely on their reputation and on referrals to bring more business in. And even if you lose few clients, because of that tarnished reputation, you might have to go out of business oftentimes. So that's really unfortunate.
Yeah, that is deeply unfortunate. As a small business owner, you put all your heart and your soul into that business, and then something that you probably don't know a lot about, which is that cybersecurity world, that just comes back to really wreak havoc on your entrepreneurial plan. I think that's so crucial that you're really targeting those people who need the most help.
And oftentimes those small businesses will have the lowest resources, right? They don't necessarily think about it, but they may not have all the financial resources of large enterprises. So they need the most help because they are, by all measures, the most vulnerable.
Now, I know we've touched just earlier a little bit on the fact that there's the human element to the cybersecurity, and we're talking about small businesses and these cybersecurity attacks. Typically, what may a cybersecurity attack look like on a small business? What should people, business owners, and employees be watching out for and be aware of?
So one of the most prevalent attacks these days is ransomware and phishing emails. Right? Phishing emails is sort of the entry point for some of the ransomware attacks or any other different types of attacks. It's very important for your employees to have awareness about phishing emails and any of these other entry points that may be vulnerable within the business itself. When you look at it, the most fundamental, most immediate, and most practical help for your business would be education and awareness for your employees and for the owners of the business.
For those of who are watching who don't know exactly what a phishing email is, what is it and what might it look like?
So phishing emails are emails that pretend to be something they are not. Somebody will send you an email that looks like it's coming from the bank, and it asks you to enter the credentials, so your username and password. And you would not recognize the difference between it being phishing email or the real bank email. Oftentimes people actually go and click on this link and try to log in to the bank, and the login doesn't work. So oftentimes they will try another password, and they may try the last 3-4 passwords. And what is happening on the background is this malicious website is storing all your passwords. These passwords will then be used to enter your system maliciously.
Then that is how they get access to your credentials, which is how then they get access to put some of that ransomware in place or to cause other issues.
And us being people, oftentimes we are using the same password for every system out there, right? So you may have, as a small business owner, 20 or 30 accounts across different platforms. If people are using the same password for everything, then they are basically opening everything up for these malicious actors.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I know as a small business owner myself, I think I have 2 passwords and all of my accounts.
We'll have to address that.
Yes, we definitely will. That will be our next meeting for sure. So these phishing emails are really not, they're not some technical hacker who's hacking into the background. It really takes the human element to click on it. How will the education that you provide really help employees identify and prevent some of these issues?
The education is very fundamental to understanding. It creates awareness in people. It puts the issue at the back of everybody's mind all the time. There may be some technological preventions that can help with phishing emails, but they are not as effective as people that are actually clicking on these links. Teaching your employees how to recognize these and what to do is extremely important. But education is not only about knowing how to prevent things. We also need to create awareness of why we are doing this, right? So creating this buy-in for people so that they understand that there is this larger issue that if company goes down, you may not have employment the next day, right? So we are creating both awareness about how to do things, but also why we are doing things the way we are doing them.
Now, we're talking a lot about how you help businesses, and you come in and you really, really focus on that education component. Let's say I'm a new business or I'm a small business and I realize, hey, I've got some cybersecurity needs. I know about Blue Warden Consulting and I reach out to you. From that very first email, what is it going to look like to work with you as a business owner?
I always try to first understand everything about your business. I don't think it really makes sense for me to propose any solutions before I understand how you work and what some of the actual issues are. I typically start off with 1 to 2 hour complimentary session where we sit down and we talk about your business processes and what are some of the issues that you may be facing. Once I understand your business a little more, then I may propose some of the packages that I already have, or perhaps it needs a very specific custom solutions that I can propose to you. And then we would continue with either implementation, depending on what your specific needs are.
I know a lot of small business owners are really concerned with the cost of how much a cybersecurity solution is going to cost them, essentially. How does your whole system help reduce the cost for small businesses?
Because we at Blue Warden Consulting, we are taking that consultancy approach and we try to really understand the business needs of every owner. It is extremely custom-made solutions that we don't propose until we actually understand the needs. As an outcome of this is that we are only proposing what is truly needed within the business itself. It may only be education, maybe it might be a mixture of some technical implementations with some education or some awareness or maybe some update to policies, but we are always only proposing solutions that will give you the best return on your investment because it's addressing the specific needs of the business.
The thing I love about small business is they're so different.
Mm-hmm.
We run a social media agency and podcasting studio. As you can attest to, you came in and really addressed, there's very specific needs that we have that I would say a lot of other businesses don't have those needs in terms of cybersecurity. So I really appreciate how you're taking a customized approach compared to someone who's going to come in and say, oh, you need 20 modules or you need to implement this tech or, a very packaged solutions. Those people are, here's the one-stop shop. I don't think that exists for small businesses because we're so diverse. So I really appreciate that you're taking the time to learn about each business and providing them a solution that is actually valuable for them. So this industry is evolving rapidly. As we know, the tech industry is just flying a mile a minute. Where do you specifically see the cybersecurity industry changing over the next 5 to 10 years?
There are a couple of big problems that have been shaping up over the last 5 to 10 years, but also will be changing the industry over the next 10 years. One of the biggest ones right now is the introduction of AI. AI is revolutionizing the IT industry and really every industry in many good ways. But when it comes to cybersecurity, it is introducing some of the problems. These problems are things like creation of these malicious emails, for example, right? So you would have a phishing email that is now so much harder to distinguish from the real non-malicious email. So it once again comes down to educating your employees and training them to have a keen eye to recognize this malicious email.
It's so funny. I actually have a story about this. When I was an intern, and just to preface this, I consider myself a very technologically advanced person. I have a degree in computer science. I work in social media and computers every single day. But when I was an intern, I actually almost got caught by a phishing email. I had received an email from the CEO of that company. And in that email, it said, go out and buy X amount of $500 Amazon gift cards to put in the gift baskets for speakers of a specific event that we were doing later that month. And I actually, now that I'm looking back at it, I'm like, they knew the specific event, the name of the event that we were hosting, and sent such a personalized and detailed email that I hopped in my car. I was halfway to the store to go buy those gift cards before I realized, wait a second, why would the CEO email me directly? And thankfully I was able to get a hold of the CEO, and he was like, no, absolutely not. That's a scam. Even as someone like myself, who I would consider myself quite technologically savvy, it was hard to distinguish that email from a real email. So I can definitely see how, now that I've got the training and I'm a little bit older, I can recognize those emails better. But AI is going to bring in even more instances of personalization, I can imagine, into phishing emails and different attacks in that regard.
Absolutely. And really, you hit the nail on the head there. It's these attackers are oftentimes targeting people that are high in a company within the corporate structure. So CEOs and CFOs and CTOs, which are oftentimes older and may not have as much experience with computers, or maybe not even really interested in working with computers as much. And then the second most vulnerable group is people that are interns. They don't have as much buy-in in a company. They haven't had as much training within that realm, and they really want to perform well. They are motivated to go through some of these tasks that they require you to do. The AI is also changing the attack game quite a bit. AI is helping attackers with creation of some of the tools. And many times we've seen over the last year or two, the AI actually creating new tools that will find new vulnerabilities that people haven't been able to find before. The entry into the game of attack or into the game of exploitation is much easier now. We have more access to internet. You don't need to have as much skills to develop some of these attacks and some of the tools needed. It absolutely is changing the game completely.
Wow. You just think about, tech industry is just flying, and the good and the bad is flying with it. Now, for all of those small business owners and medium-sized business owners who are out there who might be freaking out just a little bit about some of these risks, what would you have to say to them?
Well, first and foremost, do not panic. Do not freak out. There are ways to prevent your business from being attacked and help you plan for if that happens. Typically, the first steps include calling somebody like myself, like Blue Warden Consulting, and scheduling that 1 or 2 hour complimentary session with us. And I'll help you understand what is involved with preventing some of these attacks. We do have this very fundamental package that we can offer where we would come in and spend 8 to 12 hours with you going through 70 plus safeguards. Think of these safeguards as sort of a checklist for your business. Together, we'll sit down, we'll go through these safeguards, and based on the answers, I will create actionable, tangible recommendations for you. And then you can decide whether some of these you can implement immediately, or maybe we will create a plan together for you to improve your cybersecurity within the business over the next 6 months, a year, couple of years, whatever that may take, whatever you feel comfortable with.
So no matter what, there's a solution for every business. They can just reach out to somebody like yourself with Blue Warden Consulting and get started on their own cybersecurity journey for their business.
Absolutely.
Few last things here. Now we can get into the real fun stuff. So these are going to be our rapid fire round. So don't think, just respond. I always love to do this with people. So obviously you're an online individual. What is your favorite online website or app to use?
I think Google search is perhaps the most useful tool out there. It can give you answers to almost everything, although we have to be somewhat careful with the SEO issues and the algorithms there. But yeah, and the second one is Wikipedia.
I
love Wikipedia.
That is so interesting. Of all the people I've interviewed, I have not heard either of those as their favorite app or website to use. So you're obviously a very intellectual person. Next question for you. This might not apply to you, but we'll see. What is your favorite viral video or online trend?
Oh, this is a tough one.
Is there like a Wikipedia trend going around? I have no idea. The social media world is very scary at times. Very scary.
Can be fantastic, but can also be very impactful in a negative way.
Absolutely. On that note, I know you're a father. You have children. How do you manage your children's use of the computer? Do you put in any safeguards to help make sure that they're utilizing their time on the computer as efficiently and as productively as possible for their young minds?
Yes, this is an interesting discussion because we have been restricting how much our kids can spend on a computer, full stop. Of course, if they have homework that they have to work on, we allow them a little more time, but we try to restrict it. But I think, once again, going back to the education piece, talking to your kids or talking to your family and putting it up front as one of the main issues. It's all based in awareness and in education.
I agree. I strongly believe that kids should not be allowed on social media until they're about 16 years old. And then you need to really educate them on the pressures of social media, the dangers of social media, and how to use social media effectively to benefit their life rather than take away from their life. So 100% on the same page there. And my final question for you, I see you have a couple lovely books that you brought today into the studio. Do you mind sharing a little bit about why you brought those books and what about those books really stand out to you?
Yes, so I brought in 3 different types of books. One is about education. Once again, I have degree in education. I've studied education and have been teaching at Post-Secondary Institute here in Canada. Education is very dear to me. So I brought book because of that reason. The second book there is related to cybersecurity and cloud, specifically AWS cloud. It indicates my drive to improve the cybersecurity and my drive to always learn new things. The last book is about physics. And it's one of those books that I just love to read. I like technical books, and I like books that are technical but written really well, that they are so easily digestible. So that represents the third side of my personality.
I think that's very well thought out, and I'm a strong believer in reading and books. I think you can really develop a unique connection with books. You can learn so much about them, and as a personal growth tool, be surrounded by them. We have a bookshelf at home, and I can remember as a little kid, my mom would take me to the library. And at that time, I was not a reader until really almost in high school. Just being surrounded by books, I feel it opens your mind. It gives you a place to find information that is not necessarily as polluted as maybe information online.
It's not really as short form as oftentimes we see on internet, and just reading books takes effort in very good way.
I 100% agree with that. We have to be able to use our brains extensively. When you get bite-sized pieces of information, your brain becomes a little bit bite-sized. Well, Lubos, thank you so much for chatting with me today. I learned so much as a small business owner and just as somebody who uses a computer. We all know cybersecurity is an important issue, so I really appreciate you addressing that need for small and medium-sized businesses.
Thank you so much, Leila, for having me. Thanks a lot.